Received his bachelor in Sharif and PhD at Stanford. He was actually my teacher in several math courses that I took in Sharif. He now lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, and couldn't be here with us tonight. We wish this great gentleman the very best. I'm now honored to introduce to you Professor Bruce Wooley. Dr. Bruce Wooley is the Robert L. and Audrey S. Hancock Professor of Engineering at Stanford. He received the bachelor, master's, and PhD degrees in electrical engineering from the University of California, Berkeley in 1966, 68, and 70, respectively. From 1970 to 1984, he was a member of the research staff at Bell Laboratories in Holmdel, New Jersey. At Stanford, he has served as the chair of the Department of Electrical Engineering, the senior associate dean of engineering, and the director of the Integrated Circuits Laboratory. Professor Wooley is a fellow of the IEEE and a past president of the IEEE Solid State Circuits Society. He received the IEEE Journal of Solid State Circuits Best Paper Award in 2002 and the IEEE Solid State Circuits Technical Field Award in 2005. Please join me in welcoming Professor Wooley.
Thank you, Jalil. I feel like another village elder. All these young people who graduated in 1970. I finished in 66, so I just need to grow my beard a little more. Join him around the fire. But anyway, first of all, I'm delighted to be here today to welcome you and to say hi to a lot of people I haven't seen for a while. To what I regard really as a celebration of the extraordinary success that Sharif graduates have had here at Stanford and throughout the Bay Area and actually in the entire country. In electrical engineering at Stanford, we've been especially fortunate to have a history in the last 20 years of an extraordinary number of outstanding students. Now, when Mansour and Jalil asked me to make a few remarks about Sharif in Stanford, I thought, well, what do I really know about Sharif? And the reality of it is I don't know much of anything about Sharif. To me, Sharif University is you, and especially the subset of you I've known since I came to Stanford in 1984. And while I and a number of my colleagues in the Department of Electrical Engineering have certainly been quoted and believe that Sharif is indeed, in engineering, electrical engineering, one of the finest undergraduate programs in the world. And that is simply based on the students we've had an opportunity to work with, and as department chair, some insight into the admissions process. And your record certainly speaks for yourself. So to me, Sharif is basically you. Now, my own journey to knowing some about students, Sharif and around, I was trying to think back. I was a student at Berkeley, and I don't know if any students I don't remember. Well, I'm lucky if I remember my kids' names at this point, but students there must have been some, other than the chair of the department for the years I was there in the 60s. For much of that was Lotfi Zada, who graduated from that other university, as did one of my students, Masoud Zargari, who might be expected to regard Tehran as the real university, and Sharif, much as Harvard looks at MIT as sort of some upstart technical trade school, as my wife, a Berkeley grad, views Stanford. But beyond that, you know, when I came to Stanford, then I think the first student I met was Ali Fotowat, and I don't know how many of you know him, but this was in '84. I ended up serving, I think, as Ali's associate advisor, and he was working with Jim Meindl and working on micro power electronics for implantable medical devices, worrying about the things we started worrying a lot about, again, now 2 decades later. What do you do with an antenna buried in a conductive medium? Ollie finished in the late 80s, went to work at Phillips for a few years, and then joined the faculty at Sharif. And it was there, he really played, for me, and I think for some of the others, a critical role in establishing what became a pipeline from our perspective of incredibly talented students from Sharif. Because he knew Stanford, and he could give us insight into Sharif and the students there, and the extraordinary process, go through the admissions and the programs there that I think for me especially is seen in engineering, electrical engineering, compared to most other undergraduate institutions, really exposed students as undergraduates to being what it is to be an engineer, and to focus on creating, not to just solve problems in class, but to really create something new. And that has prepared them exceptionally well for study at places like Stanford. Now at Stanford, the last 6 or so years, we have about 40 applications from Sharif. We're able to admit about 12 a year, and I think this year we enrolled 9 students from Sharif. And I don't know what it was like in the 90s. It may have been even more, I'm not sure. In the EE department, we put our admissions process, we sort of went electronic with it in 2003, and at that point we threw out all our records from before that. So as long as you have your degree, we won't be able to, but don't lose it, because we won't be able to verify you were ever here. So we could probably do our Fabian P's maybe around or later. For myself, I started thinking back. I've had now, village elder again, 50 PhD advisees, including some of my current students. Of those, 13 are from Iran, were born there at least. One did his undergraduate at Penn, one at UCLA, one at Berkeley, and I forget where the other one was, and then 9 of them were from Sharif. Now that is far more than from any other school, so you can see my fondness for students from Sharif. Now, you have to understand, I think Tom Lee will confirm, as a faculty member, how do you go about picking students, Well, if you're going to have 10 or 12 or 15, you pick students on the basis of the ones who will be the least work for you, who can function on their own. And we talked about, Jalil later mentioned these awards and the recognition you get. That really is, for someone like me, that's the work of the students, not me. And many of those students are graduates of Sharif. Not my first one. My first Iranian student when I got to Stanford, PhD student, was a UCLA alum. And then a Berkeley alum, Gidi Nasserbad, and then finally, I think Behzad Razavi was probably the first student I had from Sharif, though I could never quite tell Behzad what university it was, as well as keeping track of his names. But I just realized today the graduate of Sharif that I've known the longest is here, and I knew her when I was at Bell Labs and used to recruit at Berkeley, and that's Heidi Karmavati, who graduated with Paul Gray when I was still back at Bell Labs. And I didn't really realize where she, when I'm out there recruiting, we don't pay much attention to the undergraduate. Stanford has been, it's been wonderful to have so many of you come through Stanford. It's been of enormous benefit to Stanford, I think, to us as faculty members individually, and played most of us on the faculty are here because of the students. And there are only a couple of universities in the country, a few in the world, where we can attract the kinds of students that we're fortunate to be able to recruit here. And the graduates of Sharif have been a big part of that. It's the reason the faculty are here, and it's the reason for the success and the stature of the department. And I know in the many students who have come, it's can be a challenge. Okay, the issues of funding. We could basically enroll more students than we have if we could provide funding for more. I could have had more advisees. Some I dearly would have loved to have served as an advisor for, who, again, there's a limited amount of time and funds, but I'm very proud of all of them. And I think the university as a department and me personally are immensely proud of you, and I hope you share that sense of pride. Now, I'll just close with one thing. I was at a Silicon Valley Hall of Fame banquet a few years ago. Every year some people notable in the Valley get inducted into this. John Hennessy not too long ago. But a few years before that, there were 4 inductees. I went to the banquet. Tom Kylath was one, and Lot Pizzata was another. And 3 of the 4 were immigrants working here in the Valley. They both, all 3 immigrants spoke at some length, very eloquently and with a lot of emotion about the opportunities that they had being able to come here and opportunities that they would not have had in their native lands to be enormously successful, these individuals. I hope those same opportunities have been afforded a lot of you, okay, and will continue to be, and most importantly, in a world that's often full of turmoil and misunderstanding, that those opportunities will continue to be afforded to future students from Sharif. And again, thank you. It's been a privilege to have you at Stanford.